Hi, I'm Wayde Kirvida from CustomFIRE, and behind me is one of 2 new pumper tenders recently completed for the City of Lino Lakes Department of Public Safety. And you know, they have an interesting story and history. I've got Fire Chief Dan Lallier with me here. So Dan, why don't you tell us kind of like how long have you guys been in operation, and what did you start with, and how do these trucks fit into, you know, your initial vision for the fire department?
It started out in like late 2013. We were part of a fire district, and the city elected to remove themselves and start their own fire protection services. Currently at that time, our police department was a public safety agency that provided police and emergency management. They rolled fire services into that, so it was developed as a director of public safety with deputy directors that overseen both police and fire. So when I was hired here in November of 14, I was tasked with the job of building a station, buying equipment, hiring and training staff. We had purchased some used trucks to fill a niche until we could develop a system that we were going to operate with. The system that we ended up developing was a cross-train model. So we had 26 cross-trained police officer firefighters, and then we hired 20 paid on call. We operate from 2 stations. We cover 33 square miles and approximately 22,000 in population.
Okay. And you started by buying some just nicely equipped used apparatus, right?
Correct.
A couple pumpers.
Yeah, they were twins.
Twin pumpers and
Yep.
twin tenders, right? Or did you have?
No, we had twin tenders that we had
that you inherited
from the district.
Right.
And then we bought a used aerial from them that was a 75-foot.
Yep.
And then we were able to purchase a used 114-foot Bronto.
Bronto, yeah. Right on. And then you guys, the first new apparatus that you picked up were a couple mini pumpers, essentially. Correct. On Ford F750 chassis. Those are like 4-door commercial cabs with rear mount fire pumps and 300-gallon tanks, and
Yep.
just a ton of equipment storage, which have worked pretty well. I mean, that kind of fit into your overall vision, right? Your transition towards...
They did, because the majority of half of our staff would show up on scene with police SUVs,
right on,
carrying their turnout gear, SCBAs. So having SCBAs in the seat in the cab and a regular custom style cab didn't really fit our need, because the majority of our responders were responding to the scene.
Yeah.
So we only needed 1 or 2 to bring the truck to the scene. And they work well, but now our model has kind of transitioned to more of a traditional model. We don't have many police cross-trained firefighters. We only have 5. We have a 20-person paid-on-call staff still, and then we are in the process of building our part-time duty crew model, and we're at 12, and our hope is to get to 15.
Cool. And so you're transitioning into trucks that you're arriving with more onboard manpower, if you will. Yep. And you're bringing a lot more water and equipment, so you're going to be phasing out the mini pumpers and the tenders probably. Correct. And then stick with elevated waterways, or, you know, ladder or aerial of some sort. Correct. You know, backed up with these engines. It's been fun to watch the genesis of this fire department and kind of how they took the very practical approach, frankly, because it's kind of a daunting thing for a community to say, you know what, we're going to do this ourselves and put together our own fire service, and it's working well. So it
is. These trucks were meticulously designed.
Yeah.
Our big hazard in our community is we have approximately 10 miles of interstate freeway, 5 miles of Interstate 35E and 5 miles of Interstate 35W.
Yeah.
And we get about 250 to 300,000 people that travel through our city every day. So having a truck that we can attack a grass fire or a ditch fire or a car fire from the cab and not have to access it until we really have to is huge.
Yeah.
So safety, and then our hazards in we have really good water where we have housing developments, and we have rural areas where there's no water.
Yeah.
So these trucks fit both of those niches.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's why we did the top mount pump panel.
Yeah.
We bought that with the used truck engine 3, and the whole thought process was we want to get them out of the roadway and into the truck.
Right.
And
well, so many people, you know, especially outside our region, they look at a truck like this and they're like, what a waste of money. They're making it super nice for a pump operator. And well, there is a practical element to it. I mean, they make a great command area. They're shorter than like a normal top mount because you don't have that walkway.
They shorten that truck up quite a bit.
They shorten about 2 feet, yeah, and that's a huge bang on the turn radius. And then just you know, just the whole cab itself lends itself to greater functionality with all the storage and equipment. And I find that I spend about as much time talking about the interior of the cab as I do on the rest of the body. Oftentimes, you know, when you're speccing something out. All right, so Dan, something unique about these trucks is that I mean, you see it on interface trucks, but not on your typical municipal pumper, is that we have a 2000 GPM, you know, midship mounted stationary fire pump, and then we have the 300 gallon per minute PTO driven fire pump. And not only is that unique, but then also how they've been plumbed with the supply to the turret, the foam, and everything. So basically they both feed a common manifold, so you can do everything really from either pump, right?
Our driving force behind that was being able to pump and roll on the freeway, and being able to be on a structure fire where we're running our midship pump, and you make an extinguishment, and now you move to overhaul, and you're running your 2000 GPM pump to flow a single hand line while you're overhauling.
Yeah.
We can transition from that 2000 GPM midship to the PTO through the same line without changing discharges or anything, still run foam, and still have enough pressure to operate that hand line.
Yeah.
And reduce that low volume cavitation issues.
Recirculation, cavitation type concept. A less expensive way to do stationary pumping and pump and roll is to do everything with one pump. But then you're relying on a hot shift PTO for, you know, your stationary major attack fires, which is going to run for a longer period of time on scene. You're also limited to the capacity. So we as a company have stopped at 1250, and the pump manufacturers, some of them want you to stop at 1250. And frankly, you're not optimizing your performance in pump and roll, because you gotta build more R's, which means in pump and roll you're like riding the brake, you know.
Which isn't safe.
No. So with the 300, I mean, this thing's putting out awesome flow at the low engine RPM, which means low speeds in that. So you're really hitting the sweet spot in both realms of pumping water, you know, from our experience. You talked about the amount of thought and meticulous attention to detail that you guys put into designing these trucks, and that's evident as I walk around it, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, I got to talk about all these things, because there's so much to cover. There's so much to cover just inside the cab. I mean, you guys just did a fantastic job. It seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm on the department over these rigs, and just through the build process, the engagement we had with your members have been great.
It's been a great partnership working with CustomFIRE.
Good.
We're replacing 2 30-year-old trucks with these, and the hope was that these trucks will provide 30 years of service to our community.
Yeah. Well, they're built to do that, so awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. Yeah, it's fun. All right, I'm going to do the Walkaround now. You had an opportunity to meet Chief Lawlier and hear about the background of the fire department, and I just thought that might provide great context for what we're about to see as we go around these trucks. Now, these trucks are each 37.5 feet long. They carry 2,200 gallons of water. They have a 2000 GPM fire pump and a 300 GPM fire pump. Seating for 5. They are the long 4-door Spartan Gladiator cabs with a 24-inch raised roof and the enclosed top mount bustle over the top mount controls. They feature our bolted stainless steel apparatus body and pump compartment. As you can see, we have painted Roll-O-Matic doors down both sides of the body and pump module. Up above the pump module has been extended up to conceal the hydraulic generator, as well as the TFT remote deck gun. Within the apparatus body, you'll see that we have a couple hydraulic racks for storage of the folding tank, the ladders, and the hard suction hose. Now, being 2,200 gallons of water, we still achieved a low hose bed, as you'll see when we get to the back. Now, that was important to these guys, and we're seeing that request a lot more often for the low hose bed, the low access height to that attack line or the blitz fire, or just, you know, any of the hose really. These trucks carry 1,000 feet of 5-inch and 800 feet of 2.5. So with that, let's get into it. All right, we're standing in the back of the cab here, and as I mentioned, this is a long 4-door Spartan cab. It's 68 inches from axle to back of cab, from the engine tunnel to the back of the cab. It's a 24-inch raised roof, and it has the enclosed top mount bustle, which is what you see behind me here with the control panel and the windows around. We have a Vista screen mounted upper level above the pump panel, and then to officers left, we have a communication radio, dual head. And this cab just has so much to talk about, but in a nutshell, we have Vista screens at driver and officer. We have a digital dash panel, which is new for Spartan, and then we have a Shield mobile data terminal for the officer position as well. The officer and then the 3 rear-facing seats are all equipped with the IMMI Smart Dock hands-free air bottle brackets. Above the rear-facing outboard positions, we have large cabinets just for basic storage, or you might call it EMS cabinets, that have lift-up doors, and they're cut out for a visual into the cabinets as well. And then every seating position has a FireCom headset intercom system as well. The pump panel itself is very well equipped and very well laid out. This is a Waterous 2000 GPM CSU, that's their full body single stage fire pump. In addition to that fire pump, we have a Waterous CPK PTO driven 300 gallon per minute fire pump, which is used to feed all the foam discharges as well as the bumper turrets. So you can operate foam from either the stationary pump or the PTO pump. The bumper turret can be fed by either pump as well, so you can do stationary pumping operations and pump and roll operations with the bumper turret. The primary discharges are going to all be 2.5-inch Waterous valves for the side, rear, and pre-connects, and then the large diameter discharges, which exist on the officer side, the rear, for the deck gun, and then the driver's side, are all Waterous electric 3.5-inch ball valves. Something really cool about this truck, and very unique, I think, is that because even though it is a pumper tender, it is equipped to do water shuttling. This customer does not like traditional dump chutes, just due to the maintenance issues, and also because of the amount of real estate that they take up on the truck. And the primary function of these trucks is as a pumper, but there will be plenty of situations where they're shuttling water. To do that, they have short fittings that they've created, short hose sections they can quickly attach to the large diameter discharges, and then from the driver's or officer's position through the Vista screen, they can open and close the large diameter discharges as a dump valve. Now, we do have a video segment, and you'll see the amount of water output is quite impressive at idle. So basically, the routine will be, pull up to the dump tank, put the 2000 GPM pump in gear, and from the Vista screen, not at the pump panel, well, you can at the pump panel, but primarily from the front seat positions, you can open those large diameter discharges and dispel water into the folding tank, and take off and go retrieve more water. So I've talked about the discharges. The remaining items on this pump panel are the intakes, the foam control, and the Harrison hydrogen control head, and then the pressure governor. So we have the new pump boss pressure governor with a revised display and larger buttons, and then we have the Harrison control head for the hydraulic generator. On the intakes, we have Acron electric intakes, which have open and close functionality. You can feather them in. They have programmable presets, so you can preset these to go all open or all closed, or even anywhere in between. Heat exchanger And then we also have auxiliary intakes on each side, which are air operated. And then last but not least, we have a TFT remote control monitor with an 18-inch extension. So from the pump operator position, you can raise the gun up and then operate it within the cab. We have a stationary control on the pump panel, and then we have a wireless control strapped in to a charging base over to the operator's right. Before we step away from the pump panel and describe other parts of the cab, I will just point out the vista here. So we have the home menu, and that gives you scene light functionality. We have a secondary menu, which is warning, screen sleep, dimmer controls. Back to the home, we have the dump valve control menu, and then we have dome lights, and then very importantly we have camera select. So we can view the back of the truck or view the area to the rear of the truck here, and that's obviously going to give the operator that situational awareness to the back of the truck, but also be able to watch the folding tank. And then we have different views. So there's driver's view, curbside view, and then back to the rear view again. Under the rear facing center seat, we have storage area with a drop down door. We have USB chargers for the crew area. And then very notably is that the outboard rear facing seats have a 15-degree rotation inwards. That is a great feature that most customers choose because it rotates the occupant's feet out of the step well. You get that better peripheral vision, less motion sickness, and then kind of cross communication from outboard to driver, outboard to officer. They'll obviously have headsets, but it's just nice to have that immediate line of sight. These guys put a new spin on EMS cabinets within the cab. It's pretty common for us to put them in the rear corners of the cab, what we call the forward-facing outboard positions. In fact, when I went to open this door, I was surprised because it didn't hinge open. The interior of the cabinet pulls out, so you can leave it open when you're on scene, and it's rather than kind of reaching in around the corner or having a roll-up door that eats up a third of the space, this pull-out section is pretty cool. So I get the question a lot on the LFD cab that has this compartment is, what will fit in there? What do people put in there? Usually it's like extinguishers and things like that. This is a great demonstration of what you can get in terms of like a couple spare hose rolls. This compartment is 31 inches tall, but you can tell it's about 21 inches with a knockout here for the interior cabinet or seat. But Spartan will offer this in really any height, all the way up to the drip rail, essentially. I just spec'd one out that's 51 inches tall. I've done some that are 76 inches tall, and then you can do all sorts of different depths and pass-throughs depending on what the interior of the cab allows. The interior of this cab is extremely well equipped and has a lot to talk about, partly owing to the fact this truck has two pumps on it. We have the primary 2000 GPM single stage stationary fire pump, Waterous CPK, PTO driven fire pump. And you can see here that we have the joystick control for the TFT bumper turret. We have a pressure gauge and a tank level gauge for the driver to monitor, and it's engaged with a rocker switch. Other things to point out in this cab is our intercom control, our traffic advisor, the electric siren, the two-way radio, HVAC, and then some rocker switches for things like heated mirrors, heated windows. Then we have our Vista screens on each side, and the engineer thought it would be cool to laser cut our logo into the control panel, and the customer had no issue with that, so we're happy to be represented like that. Over at the officer position, we have another Vista screen, as I mentioned, and then we have a couple USB ports, siren brake, officer floor heat, and then of course the HavaShield's mobile data terminal mount, and then a map light. All right, starting at the driver's side pump panel, we have a couple poly trays, each with 200 feet of 1 3/4 hose. Recessed below that is a 30-foot roll of 5-inch hose. Just adjacent to that, we have a 2.5-inch direct tank fill. On the panel itself, we have a 2.5-inch discharge, a 5-inch storage discharge, and then a 6-inch intake, as well as a 2.5-inch auxiliary intake. You'll notice that the elbow is off that large diameter discharge. The reason for that is because they're treating their large diameter discharges on both sides and the rear as not only discharges but also as essentially dump chutes. Now, water hauling and water shuttling is not the primary function of these trucks. They're primarily pumpers. But in their setting and with their mutual aid, there will be many occasions where they need to drop the folding tank and shuttle water. This client does not like dump chutes. They don't like the experience they've had with dump chutes, the maintenance. They don't like how much real estate they take up, but they still wanted that functionality. So what we did, because they're electric valves, we programmed them so that they can automatically open from the Vista screen at the dash or even at the pump panel. But you know, it's going to be done by the driver or officer positions, so they can roll up from the driver's position, open the tank to pump, get the pump operating, and at idle, these things will dump a massive amount of water out these large diameter discharges, and then they can close the valve, take the pump out of gear, put it back in drive, and be on their way. In the apparatus body itself, this is a 2,200 gallon tank with a low hose bed. When you say those things, you don't generally expect deep compartments, but we do have pretty deep compartments, upper level. Down below, they're 25 inches deep. Up above, they're 16 inches deep. We have perforated tool board on the wall. We have a C-Tech toolbox, which is extremely popular. And you can see that they have various fitting labels and miscellaneous hand tools. With the proliferation of your Milwaukee cordless tools, you're also seeing these toolboxes come in real handy in those occasions. Within the wheel wells, we have an open cubby storage for the driver's air pack. We have a pull-out dispenser for floor dry. And then over the fuel fill, we have 2 fire extinguishers. And then up above those, adjustable shelving and some outlets. I'm going to point out these trucks are not in service yet, so they're still in the process of locating and mounting equipment. The hydraulic rack on this side of the truck is carrying the portable folding tank, as well as a couple of lengths of 10-foot, 6-inch hard hose. With a single arm ladder rack, we can drop that and they still maintain access to all their compartments. And finally, in the rear side compartment, we have this large swing out tool board. You can see they mounted a couple axes on this side. Behind it, they have their little giants. They're making great utilization of space. Before we move to the rest of the truck, I'll just point out the lighting package. We have Pioneer dual pane upper level scene lighting. We have one single pane in the middle, Wayland M series warning lights, and then up on the side of the cab you might point out that ProVision camera eye, because this truck does have cameras to all 4 sides of the vehicle. I really like how they laid out the back of this truck. We have great access points. It's very safe to get up and down, and real good access to the discharges and rear intake. We have a pull-out platform in the center and our swing-out drop-down ladders on each side. So just all in all, a lot of ease and access and safety working on the rear of the truck. I'm going to keep mentioning it because I think it's important to note that this is a 2,200 gallon tank. Very low hose bed given the style of truck we have here. Deep side compartments. And then we have a little bonus storage underneath. Now, the tank is a very unique design. We work with UPF and they put the hose bed kind of notched into the tank so the water goes up around. So behind your scene lighting and handrails is actually water because of the tank. The hose bed resides between it. See if I can get this right the first time. Look at that. So in the hose bed itself, 800 feet of 2.5, 1,050 feet of 5-inch, and then some additional storage below for apartment packs. This truck has a ROM powered hose bed cover. So we have a fixed header at the back, giving us a mounting surface for the traffic lights, and then a touch of the rocker switch and the hose bed will move forward. We tap the hose bed rocker switch and it moves forward. And finally we have two 2.5-inch discharges immediately under the hose bed, a 6-inch rear intake, and then your 5-inch rear discharge. All right, I'm on top of the body here, and you can see where we have the ladder rack with suction hose box, attic ladder, and then this side we have the folding tank with another suction hose box. And then I'm standing on top of that powered hose bed cover. Ahead of me are the fill stacks. It is an L-shaped tank, so there's water right there. There's water along each side of this hose bed cover. Just tap the switch and you can see how the hose bed cover opens up to reveal the hose. We're in the rear officer side compartment here. We have a rollout tray with a couple electric rewind hose reels. There is a large power outlet in back for an electric power unit, which is supplied by the onboard hydraulic generator. Adjustable shelves and trays above that. Over the rear wheels, we have pans and straps that we made up for their saws and gas can. Storage for 6 air bottles in the wheel well, and then another pull-out floor dry bin. In the front compartment on this side, they're in the process of some tool mounting, but they have the breaker box for the Harrison hydraulic generator. Over the pump, we installed a HANA reel with 200 feet of 10-4 cable, and you can see the junction box there on a shelf. We more or less replicated the driver's side with a direct tank fill, large diameter discharge, 2.5-inch discharge, 6-inch intake, and a 2.5-inch auxiliary suction. All of us at CustomFIRE appreciate the time you take to watch these video walkarounds. We hope you find them interesting and informative, and we thank the city of Lino Lakes and their firefighters for all the hard work they put in these 2 new pumper tenders. I'm Wayde Kirvida from CustomFIRE. Thanks for watching. Should I turn this on while I'm talking? Sounds good. Am I in video? That was something important to these guys, and we're seeing that a lot more, requested a lot more. And we're seeing that requested a lot. All right, good. We're on the officer side of the truck. Hold on a second. Ah, it's better. We're on the opposite side of it. It's not that much better. It's just cold. All right. Did a nice job laying that hose. And the recessed remote telescoping. Interesting and informative. And we'd like to thank the city of goddamn. And we'd like to thank this fire pump, which is controlled or engaged by driven by a, which is driven. So we have, and this, and we'd like to thank. All right, is that dumb? Should I do another one?